Hey there hunters, welcome back to the Gunners Guild. Today we're going to go over early game progression with bowguns, what bowguns and armors to make, and kind of what we're doing at early end game with armor sets. This still isn't like a super min-max setup yet, as everyone's still discovering tech, and we don't really have hard motion values and frame data for some things here with bowguns, so this is going to be less objective and more kind of anecdotal at this point. And if you checked out my previous video going over the bowgun changes in wilds, we did show and discuss all the MOs already. And after a lot of playing and feedback from other gunners and some rough data estimates, we've pretty much concluded that the only MOs worth using here in Wilds is Pierce and Elemental for both light and heavy bowgun, although heavy bowgun's Wyvern Heart is still very solid and I like to use that. So that's kind of going to be what we're going to be revolving around through progression and our current endgame grind. I don't want to get too hyper fixated on this though, because we're going to have a title update in a month and anything could change. So this is just for now, this is what we're using. But the reason why Pierce is so good is that it's got some of the best critical distance ranges in the game, and basically every MO has to worry about critical distance now. And it does the most motion value per second, which means it's also going to be refilling your rapid energy and Wyvern Heart meter much faster, which just ups your DPS much more. And of course, it's infinite, so you don't have to have unlimited stock like Elemental MO. It's kind of hard to progress with Elementals because we don't really have the combine materials to keep it going for every hunt, so we kind of have to use Pierce. But with that out of the way, let's just get into the progression. So for heavy bowgun progression, the Chatacabra heavy bowgun is actually a decent start because it's a standard 2 heavy bowgun, meaning that it gets 20% more raw ammo damage, and you can use normal 2s with high clip size, so that's not bad. This is a great bowgun to start out with, and you can basically make it after the first hunt, so I mean, why not, right? The next bowgun I'd recommend actually is the Congalala heavy bowgun, which is kind of in the opposite vein. It's an Ignition 2 heavy bowgun that also comes with special ammo, so it's just perfect for Wyvern Heart. And it's got very solid raw, and making it pretty much the best Wyvern Heart bowgun that I've seen. And Wyvern Heart, like I said, is probably the best thing heavy bowgun's got going for it in my opinion, at least for now. And the Congalala heavy bowgun can also use paralysis ammo, which is excellent for a guaranteed way to dump a Wyvern Heart clip. And it can also run clusters for early burst damage. And then you can also fall back on Pierce 3 ammo. So I mean, it's kind of obvious why this is like my favorite heavy bowgun right now. You can basically take these two bowguns all the way to the end game. Now, depending on your progression levels, like through your story and what upgrades you have unlocked, you also could just make whatever is the highest raw heavy bowgun that's available to you and just slap on Wyvern Heart and you should be fine, to be honest. But these are the two I'd recommend for progression. For armor pieces, there's really nothing that's going to help heavy bowguns specifically, so just use and upgrade whatever you like until the end of low rank. I was using Balaharas and Hirabamis for evade window and evade extender. At the end of low rank, you can make things like a Guardian Rathalos gear for some weakness exploit, Arcveld gear for flare, or even Odo gear for some burst. It's pretty much the best you can do in low rank, and you can just use these until the end of high rank. Don't worry about getting complete sets or anything like that, just, use whatever you can use. Now with low rank out of the way, let me do light bowgun progression for low rank. And we're going to have a pretty linear path. We're going to start with the Ore Tree light bowgun and then upgrade that into the Ray Dow light bowgun. Both of these are using rapid fire Pierce, but Ray Dow can also use rapid fire Thunder, as well as paralysis ammo, which is very solid. It also comes with opening shot, which is going to help your reload speed. You can take this Pierce light bowgun pretty much to any monster in the game and you'll be just fine. Now, by the time you're getting done with low rank, you're also going to have the option to make like the Rathian light bowgun, as well as the Ebony Odo light bowgun. The Rathian is the same, Pierce 3 clip 4 as Ray Dow, but it can also rapid fire poisons if you want to try a full Ray build. I haven't really delved into those too much yet, but that's really all it's got going for it. Tetra Shot is fine, I guess, but I prefer opening shot because that is also your reload speed. You can also run the Odogaron's light bowgun, like I mentioned. It comes with Tetra Shot, but it's also got clip 6 of rapid fire Pierce 2, meaning it can get bonuses from Tetra Shot on the 4th and 6th shot of the clips of Pierce. That being said, it's only Pierce 2 and not Pierce 3, which is noticeably weaker. It's hard to tell right now if the extra clip size is worth the loss in damage. They're feeling very similar enough right now that either are good options in my opinion. Again, we just don't have super hard data for everything. Now, early game armor for light bowgun is basically going to be the same as heavy bowgun. You really don't need anything until the end of low rank, where you can get Rathalos pieces, as well as Zhuwu pieces for weakness exploit and max might for light bowgun. Or again, you can still run Arcveld for flare. Just slap together whatever you can, but I do recommend getting 3 pieces of Zhuwu for 3 max might if you can. So that's low rank, and as we get into high rank, you should have had some time to collect resources and materials for elemental ammo, so you'll want to start making weapons for elemental setups, as elemental in general is better than Pierce so long as it's against the right monster. Like, I wouldn't recommend Elemental for Arcveld or Gormagala, but in general, Elemental works very well. But Pierce, always a solid option for comfy gunning without worrying about any crafting. You don't have to run Elemental, you can just run Pierce if you want to. So going with high rank and endgame heavy bowgun sets, we basically have two options. You can either run Wyvern Heart with the Kongalala heavy bowgun and fall back on Pierce, or you can run Elemental. Pierce is always going to be your fallback option though. I still use Kongalala heavy bowgun for Wyvern Heart setups, but otherwise we just have Elemental bowguns. I believe Arshan heavy bowguns are better than the Elemental bowguns as they come with status MOs, Ignition 2 for Wyvern Heart backup, and decent clip sizes and backups for Pierce and normal ammo. But until you're making the Arshan heavy bowguns and have decorations put in them, we do have some heavy bowguns that we're going to be using for our Elemental slots. So for fire heavy bowguns, I use Gravios, because outside of the Fire 2 MO it's the only bowgun in the game that also has Cluster 3s. It also has Ignition 2 for Wyvern Heart, which is great, but unfortunately doesn't have any good backup MO, so that's its downfall there. For an ice heavy bowgun, Gormagala is going to be our go-to for some reason. It has critical element built in, it's got good clip sizes for ice, it has access to slice MO, because only 3 bowguns in the game do, and it has Pierce 3 you can fall back on. It's also a standard 2 heavy bowgun, so the Pierce MO is getting boosted damage as well. Gore is a very good heavy bowgun. It's solid for most things in the game. For water MO, the Chatacabra heavy bowgun will suffice as we don't really have very many good water options. Arshan's going to be better for sure, but if you did progression with like the Chatacabra heavy bowgun, you just finish it up, upgrade it to max and hold on to that until you actually can craft your Arshan with, your good decorations and such. And then for lightning heavy bowgun, we're going to be using Fulgur Anjanath, which is also coming with critical element built in, but unfortunately it doesn't have any good backup MO. So you better kill the monster with your ammo limit. Arcveld works too for Thunder. It doesn't have critical element built into it, but it can use stickies for some KO, and it does have spread 3, which is bad, but it's better than anything Fulgur has, so it's a good option to fall back on as well. Again, I think the Arshan heavy bowgun for Thunder is going to be a better option once you get your decorations and you get like your min-max bowgun, but up until now you could just use Fulgur, it's fine. And to be honest, that's all the decent and worthwhile heavy bowguns in my opinion. Again, haven't tested absolutely everything, but this is kind of where we're sitting at right now. Moving on to the light bowguns. Again, I just use Pierce with Ray Dow for the most part. You can use it on literally every monster in the game and be just fine. But of course, you're free to use Rathians or Odogarans as well, as they are very similar, and I really don't know what's absolutely best for now. Pick whatever you want, but Rapid Fire Pierce is what you want to be using. For elemental light bowguns, you're definitely going to want to make one for each element as well. For water, the only decent option is going to be Guardian Arcveld, but unfortunately it doesn't have any good fallback ammo. So again, I'm going to go with an Arshan light bowgun for rapid fire normals to fall back on, just in case, once you can make that. For fire light bowgun, Guardian Rathalos is also a good option because it comes with critical element, but just like Arcveld, it doesn't have any good ammunition to fall back on in the event that you run out of your fire ammo. It's only got spreads. So in this case, again, I'd recommend an Arshan weapon when you can make it. For Thunder, obviously, Ray Dow is going to be my winner here since I can always fall back on Rapid Fire Pierce if I run out of Thunder ammo. And then lastly, for Ice, the Hirobami is a fairly good option as well since it has Rapid Fire Pierce to fall back on if needed, although it's clip size 2 of Pierce 2, which is really bad, but it also has water ammo. And I think most monsters that are weak to ice are also kind of weak to water, like you can still use it. So I'd say if you want to get like an Ice Arshan weapon to replace this, you can, but it's probably not as important as like the water or fire ones who really only have spread to use. So Hirobamis for Ice is definitely worth making. Now, regarding the armor set for both bowguns, I do have a generic gunning set for endgame that I'm using until I find better decorations or some other combination. But what we're using here is a mix of Arcveld and Odogaran for Burst 5, Weakness Exploit 5, and Agitator 2 on the Jit Dahad boots. Rank 5 Burst is going to give us a 10% raw and elemental damage while we're active, plus 3 raw for having 2 pieces of Odogaran. And since Pierce and Elemental hit at least 5 times per shot, we're basically always going to have Burst active while shooting, outside the first shot of course. We have Weakness Exploit and it's okay. It's only a 30% affinity boost most of the time now since the 50% only happens on wounds. But we just don't really have that many good armor skill options right now. I think Agitator would probably be a better fit because monsters are enraged most of the time, I feel. So we might change this up in the future to run more Agitator, like running Blagongo chest and doing like Agitator 5, Weakness Exploit 2, Burst 5 kind of thing. So your pick between those two. Now, I have free slots here that can be used for either a Vade Extender for Heavy Bowgun, which is very useful because it does allow us to slide much further after a Perfect Guard and get us back into critical distance for Pierce and Elemental ammo. Or you can use Max Might for Light Bowgun and get more affinity most of the time since they don't have to dodge as often. So really, this is like my end game farming set for both my Bowguns right now. Your weapon skills are obviously going to be dependent on your available decorations and whatever emmos you're using. For elemental, I'd recommend running critical element and elemental attack up, kind of duh, and then ballistics for critical distance. I feel like these are the most important skills for elemental ammo. And then for raw emmos, like you're going to want your shot type up. Like they're only 5% now, so it's not that big of a deal. I don't know if they're even that optimal at this point, but it is a flat 5% damage boost, which is nice. Opening shot is also very strong for reload speeds because yes, opening shot does increase your reload speed, which is why I like the Ray Dowlight Bowgun. You could just, use the level 1 decoration and finish that off. And then I'm using focus for heavy bowguns because it does increase your cooldown rate for Wyvern Heart, so that's great. And of course, special ammo boost for special ammo damage, so that's great for heavy bowgun as well. But ballistics is also a very solid option for pretty much anything you're running, raw ammo, Wyvern Heart, elemental, whatever. Ballistics is like the best skill bowguns have. But yeah, that's all the information from progression to where I am now, decoration farming. It's got what armors and weapons I'm using and what armors and weapons I'd make. Archer and bowguns are going to be pretty solid, but it's going to take a while to farm all those up, and we're going to have to min-max the decorations to really make those the best. I just don't think they do anything other bowguns don't already do besides having normal ammo to fall back on, which isn't really saying much. Optimal decorations may put Archer weapons over craftables if we get any more upgrades to the Archer weapons in the future updates, which is possible. But for now, they're all right. Don't feel like you have to get them though, but they are going to be worth making, I'm sure. In summary though, we're going to use Pierce for everything. Wyvern Heart is still nice on heavy bowguns, and Elemental when you have enough crafting materials to sustain it. But that's about all we can do with bowguns. So kind of boring, but it is what it is. But that's going to be all for me. Thank you all for watching. Good luck out there, hunters, and I'm sure I'll make more videos later on.